everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. I'm so pleased to have as our guest today Majora Carter, who is an urban revitalization strategist. We'll talk about saving our cities. She's the president of the Majora Carter Group, the founder of Sustainable South Bronx and Green for All, the winner in 2005 of the MacArthur Genius Grant for her work in the South Bronx, a Peabody Award-winning broadcaster, and winner of the Blogger Pitch Contest, a $250,000 in support for her startup business, Startup Box software company. Clearly a lot to talk about today. Your talents. I'm so glad to see you. I've known you since you were the baby. As I say, before she was Majora Carter, I knew Majora Carter.
And this Majora Carter totally looked up to you, so it is an honor and a delight to be here with you today.
I am so glad to have this conversation because we're really updating. It's hard for me to believe that you talk about a 20-year career now.
Yeah.
From your earliest days of working in the South Bronx, trying to get the trucks from, coming down residential streets, to now having your own company. Still in the South Bronx, though. So I always start by asking our guests to place themselves in Black America. That means placing you in the South Bronx, born, bred.
Still live, yes.
Still live.
Yes, I am the second of 3 generations of Carters that lived in Hunts Point in the South Bronx. My dad moved there in the late 1940s, one of the first black men to move into Hunts Point. And it was mostly white at the time. And, he moved there, after being a Pullman porter, a truck driver, long haul truck driver, because he wanted better for his young family. And it was, that was before the financial disinvestment that plagued a lot of American cities. It was before the fires that plagued, in particular, ours, and that became the infamous "the Bronx is burning," and that's what I was born into in the late 1960s.
The Bronx is burning.
Yes, right. And so much of my early years were all about how do I get away from the South Bronx, and I felt that way probably up until my mid-20s, easily, where I used education to get out. And I did.
And this is, you went to the Bronx High School of Science.
Yes.
So clearly you were a nerd.
I was, total ghetto geek, as a bunch of us like to.
Ghetto geek?
That's what we called ourselves. Yes, absolutely.
Right, and then went off to Wesleyan. Yep. And then planned to never come back.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
It's like, I saw it all. My brother had been killed because of the drug wars. I mean, you see people leave. I did see people addicted that I was born and raised with, and it was just too much. And I just really didn't feel like there was much that was going to keep me there, and why. So I left.
Right. Well, and you did a TEDx talk about this brain drain and communities. Let's take a look at that, and we'll come back and talk with Majora about what she's trying to do.
I'm going to give you a recipe for how to encourage brain drain in low status communities. And I want you all to understand what brain drain means. It's often called bright flight as well. If you're a smart kid in a poor community, you're taught to measure success by how far you get away from those communities. Some of the first things that you do, and here's the recipe. So the first thing is ensuring that the people there in those poor neighborhoods know exactly how poor they are. And you see it with the kind of economic developments that are there. Not particularly healthy food options or places where you want to spend time shopping or going to. The kind of businesses that make you feel as though you need to leave your neighborhood to get better places to be. Things like this, for example. Also, plenty of liquor stores and other kinds of places that don't instill the kind of financial equity. And last but definitely not least, lots and lots of affordable low housing units. All these things serve to concentrate poverty, which then in turn concentrates all the things associated with it, from poor health outcomes to poor educational opportunities to crime issues associated with poor self-esteem. So what we're interested in doing is developing new opportunities for how do you harness the power of gentrification so that it benefits the people that are in our communities, thus reducing brain drain. This is the former Spofford Juvenile Detention Facility in the South Bronx in New York City. We're actually all part of a development team that's working for the right to redevelop it into mixed income housing and mixed use commercial development. Our goal is to develop these kind of options from mixed income housing, the kind that people often leave the community to experience.
Okay, that's a tall order.
Yes.
So now, tell us, how do you do that, Majora?
I'm really interested the approach that we have for real estate development, which is you can really use real estate development as a transformational tool.
So I want to say that you are actually, and your company is developing real estate in the
Yes.
South Bronx.
Yes, we are.
Residential and commercial.
Yes, and we're doing it from a really particular kind of place-based approach, but it really comes from this opportunity that we heard about called self-gentrification. And I got that phrase from the president of Johnson C. Smith University, which is down in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were planning on doing some development in the area right next door to the college, and he really thought of it as a way to like promote, more economic development in that incredibly poor town. But the people in the town were flipping out because they were like, oh my gosh, even though, everybody that was doing the development was black, but they were upper income black people, and they were immediately scared. And he's like, no. This is about creating economic development because the college is a part of the community is part of the college. Mm-hmm. We have got to create economic development that's going to lift us all up. And so this is development that's by us and for us. This is self-gentrification. It's not gentrification. It's for us.
This is a good distinction that we need to make. So us meaning people of color, people of not great means.
We're doing it so that we can all benefit. And that is something that I feel like we've not done a very great job on in terms of when people think about gentrification, they act like it's just this tsunami that's just coming at us. Whereas I really do believe that we've sort of set ourselves up in a bunch of ways for gentrification, because it doesn't just happen when the white people start moving in or when the doggy daycares start moving in.
Or the cupcake shop in my neighborhood.
It happens many years before that when we tell people in those same communities that we should not invest in our own communities, that those places are not worth investing in, and that we need to leave them if we're going to be anything.
Right.
That's when it happens.
Right.
And so our approach to development is all about how do we create models and opportunities for people to be a part of the change that's we know is coming, because we're not going to be able to stop most of the development that's happened, but we can absolutely be a part of some of it, which means that is what can bolster, our ability to be more sustainable within our own communities.
Yeah. So what that takes, though, is people willing to lend you more money, giving you business loans and mortgages and all of that, which is a piece.
A piece, yes.
As you know, as a black businesswoman yourself,
yes,
that this is a difficult road to navigate.
Right. And and unfortunately, I am following a long line of other minority and women-owned developers in New York and around the country, who unfortunately understand firsthand that we're not, it's just we're so undercapitalized in a bunch of ways. And actually, I had to self-finance my first two earliest projects simply because there wasn't a whole lot of support for me. One of them was building like a real locally owned business, within the South Bronx, and it's a coffee shop, which started off as a joint venture between my company and Birch Coffee, which is a really, really popular New York City-based chain, and us, but then it's since become 100% locally owned by my company and another family within the community. It's the first locally owned coffee shop we've had in the South Bronx since I think I was in high school, back in the 1980s. So, and here you have on a main street, within a community, only one locally owned business.
Right, exactly.
This is a problem.
Right.
And
so it always gets back to the banks, right? We like to beat up on them because in many cases they deserve it.
This is true. You're not going to find. Yeah, they do.
Right.
But I do think but some of it is also for us to be a part of that. I mean, are we actually pushing to make sure that we're developing businesses in those communities? Are those of us who actually do have the means and the interest in doing it, are we looking back and going, this is where we're going to set up shop, or are we going to go elsewhere? And I think that is something that we also have to grapple with as well. And our investment, my company's investment really has been in trying to set an example. And I really do hope that I'm not the only one who's going to do this going down the line.
Right. Now, I know that there's an effort because there's no bookstore, is this correct, in all of the South Bronx or the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
The entire borough.
Yep.
And there's a young black woman who's trying to do that.
Yep.
So we're hoping.
Noelle Santos, I hope you interview her as well. Yes, she is just this amazing, young entrepreneur, and she's actually starting the Lit Bar, which is going to be a combination wine bar and bookstore. And we were really delighted to be helping her, on that path because, I knew that I really, I was just like, I'm not the only one who's thinking about how do
Thanks.
we invest within our own community. And when started following her work, and was just delighted to hear that yes, she absolutely was interested in making sure that her business was in the South Bronx, which is where she's from as well.
Right, right. Now, part of your company is advising other companies on how to do this, small companies and
Yeah.
also big companies on how to integrate themselves successfully into developing neighborhoods.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's been an interesting kind of road in order to do that. But again, so much of our work really has been kind of being like the early innovator and taking the risk to show that it's really not that scary.
Yeah. Well, for instance, bringing one of your clients is Fresh Direct.
Yes.
And you brought them into the neighborhood.
Well, I can't claim credit for bringing them
Okay,
in.
right.
But what I will claim some credit for
Yes.
is actually setting it up so that there were other community-based organizations who were interested in seeing a company that was going to help bring better food options to the South Bronx, and also hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs, to the local community. They were really happy about that,
Right.
and so it was really good for me to be kind of that sort of connective tissue to help make that happen.
Right, but that was a big transition for you in a way, because you had been seen as the community girl who was, building the nonprofits and what. And now, as you grow up, and
Yeah.
now you're an advisor to the corporate world.
Right.
and-
Even when I was in the nonprofit industrial complex, I was always considered a bit of an outsider because I really focused on project-based development, and I was much more interested in economic development because I really did believe that was the lack thereof was a problem within our communities. I knew that economically disempowered people are easy to push around, but when people have jobs, when people have access to capital, when they feel as though they have something that they're at risk of losing, that's when they start to feel like, oh, no, you can't push me around like that. So even if you look back at my earliest work, I've always been interested in the money, specifically for our community,
Exactly.
because we didn't have it.
Right.
And that's why we were treated the way we were. And so because of that, because I embraced my inner capitalist, there were lots of folks within the social justice industrial complex who thought, she's a sellout, whatever, and I'm fine with that.
You're moving right along, moving right along. Now the area that there are, like you say, 1.4 million people now who live in the Bronx, in
Yes.
the whole borough, and the South Bronx, which is your concentration, 250 to
Yes.
1,000 to 500,000 people. And what's your great plan for what will happen to the South Bronx in that lower sphere?
I mean, there's, I believe, about 12 different projects that are slated for development all throughout the Bronx. I mean, mostly some market rate work. Our interest is actually doing mixed income housing and mixed use commercial development, because I really do believe that we need to see economic diversity within our communities. And yes, I want to focus mostly on the communities that are strictly low status right now. I mean, the South Bronx, it still is, unfortunately, one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. It has, unless we start seeing, and we will start seeing pockets of more market rate development happening there. But my goal, as I continue, my path as a real estate developer, is really to look at how do you create more, different pathways for people to have, whether it's supportive housing, low-income housing, and then market rate, up above that as well, so that you're seeing all these things, so that people can actually see what it looks like to have aspirations within a community. I mean, because I really have been struck by one of the unintended consequences of civil rights legislation, particularly around housing. There might have been, in places where there was racial segregation, but there was economic diversity. So people saw, if you happen to be the daughter, like I am, the daughter of a janitor, would have been able to see people, who were also black, but they were doctors and dentists because we had to live within close proximity. We don't have that anymore. Housing legislation made it so that if you could afford to move, you did. I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying it,
Sure.
but basically that's what happened. And I think we're still struggling with that right now. The fact that our communities are, the poor communities and low status communities, concentrated poverty. And where it's somebody like me who still lives in my community, who's considered middle class, if people don't see me leaving my home, and these are people that actually like the work that I'm doing, they'll ask me things like, well, where do you live? And I'm like, around the corner.
Right.
And they'll be like, you live here?
Right.
And they're shocked at that. And why did it get to the point where where people feel as though success cannot live in their own communities? That, I think, that's the kind of psychological thing that happens when we don't address the fact that we have created communities where people feel as though they are less than just by being born in them. And that is a problem that we've got to deal with. And I think an approach to how we develop those communities is the way out.
Right. So not only are you dealing in real estate, but you're also dealing with training technology. And one of the companies you started, we're going to show a clip of your pitch, which resulted in $250,000 of in-kind support. So it would have been nice to have the $250,000, but still. And this is from Blogger, a women's blogging site that held this contest. And let's take a look at Majora competing.
My name is Majora Carter, and this is my pitch. My company is called Startup Box, and I started it because I realized that there were tech companies out there that weren't satisfied with the quality assurance software testing services that they were getting from offshore companies. Also realized as a community developer that there were plenty of talented people in low-income communities of color, like my neighborhood in the South Bronx, where they're not having an easy time getting into the tech world. So we wanted to create entry-level jobs with career ladders. Startup Box was a solution for both problems. We are urban onshoring those tech services with a B2B business as we create jobs. We're also creating local economic activity in a poor community, because when people walk by, they see people that look just like them doing tech work. So what else am I looking for? I'm looking for clients, I'm looking for investors, I'm looking for friends.
So clients, investors, and friends.
And friends,
Did
yes.
you get them?
I did, actually. We're still working on it, but yes, could always use more of all of them.
Right. And so you're training, and I think that this is one of the things we need to think about, that really this forward movement, if you're going to train people, you need to look at technology. And what is it, local onshoring is the term?
Yeah, or urban onshoring.
Urban
And actually,
onshoring.
we're not just training, because the training they get is on the job, because we actually hire them, because we looked at the statistical hiring bias in technology and realized that folks that look like us are actually having a really difficult time getting into tech jobs. Like, even if you look at just the number of blacks that actually graduate with engineering or computer science degrees, it's 4%, okay?
Right.
Nationally, yet only 2% of the entire technology workforce is black people. So don't tell me that they're...
Where's the other 2%
Hello,
at least?
they're working in education. They're not in the tech economy.
Right.
So what we did was actually find a market-based solution to this tech diversity problem by looking at what were some of along the software development pipeline, where are opportunities where we could actually add value and do it right here and train people up so that they could actually make connections within the tech economy on their own, with our help, obviously, but essentially get to meet people, because we realize that I'm sure there are some really awful racist people in technology, as there are everywhere, but I think most of the time it's simply people just hiring who they know. And if they're hiring who they know, chances are, if you're white, you're a white male, you probably know a lot more white males than you do anybody else. So what we did was create a service part of the software development pipeline that we know that they needed, so that they could meet our people. And we situated the company, so we didn't put anybody on a desk in their place. We put them in a storefront office in our community, so that people from our neighborhood could look in those windows and see black and brown people that look just like them.
Right.
Working
if you
in
can
technology.
see it, you can be it.
Totally.
Right?
And that was
Right.
That's
Right.
also another part of our approach to development.
Sure.
People, if you don't see it, you won't know it. So you really have to set up a community so that people recognize that they can actually grow, and there's an aspirational mix embedded within it.
Yeah, I wanted to go back with this gentrification to talk just a bit about that, because some people equate it with crime, in a sense of it being a crime, not that
of it being
a crime. Because, I mean, for instance, in Washington D.C., that used to be a black city, 77%, because of all of the building going on there. Now millennials have moved in, mostly white millennials, and now it's the black population is only 49% or 47%.
Wow.
So that's, we know that that's what happens, you
Right.
know, in my neighborhood, which, you know, is an older community,
Yeah.
6-story buildings. Someone wanted to come in and put a 25-story building. Our councilman turned it down. But, you know, how do you, and I know that's exactly the kind of thing you're working against, to try to keep people there.
Right.
But often when the housing is built, it's still unaffordable
Right, well-
to the people who live there.
It can be. I mean, but I think that's where you really have to do the work to figure out what is the right mix. You know, there must be new development. There's general room, you know, to do a lot of it. And so how do we do that in a very comprehensive, thoughtful way? I do believe that's the case. But even before we get to that point, you know, there was a really awful article, you know, about what was going on in Brooklyn, you know, a certain area in Brooklyn, which I can't remember which one it was, but it was so interesting because folks there, you know, mostly black people, were talking about how, you know, there was actually some, you know, the shops were better, you know, now that, you know, there were more white people in the neighborhood, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But then what struck me the most was that there was this one line about how this guy who was living in, you know, an apartment in this building, it was actually in the building that his family once owned.
Right.
And then
Right.
the writer just walked away from that.
Right.
It was just like,
Exactly.
why is this man living in an apartment building, or in an apartment in a building his family once owned? Why isn't he owning that building? Why wasn't that an issue?
Right.
You know, why isn't that of interest to folks that, you know, basically in order for somebody to buy a building, somebody's got to sell it.
Right.
And if we're selling off pieces of our own legacy without fully understanding what it is that we're doing.
Well, I'm afraid that's already happened in New York. Right?
Exactly.
All
But
over New York.
But that's what I'm saying. That's
so
what I said.
all of the black neighborhoods, like Bed-Stuy is now hot. you know,
Exactly,
so-
because we were taught to not see value in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made it easy for someone else to come in and just say,
Right.
I'll give you more money than you could
Right.
ever possibly imagine. I get notes underneath my door every other day asking me to buy my house for cash.
Right.
And, you know, and I know there are some people who will do that, right?
Oh, I know. Well, the Bronx is already hot. You know,
Yeah.
when people used to say, "Well, I guess I'll have to move to the Bronx," and now it's like, I can't afford to move to the Bronx.
I know.
you
It's a really interesting dynamic because it's, you know, yes, gentrification's already happened.
Right.
I mean, what can we do now to preserve and maintain and also improve the quality of life of at least some of the folks that are already there?
Right.
That's really what we're trying to work on now.
Great. Well, I want to talk a little bit about our new president and his
Oh.
plans. You know, I was always a little surprised to know that he actually had a plan for
Yeah.
Black America
Oh.
that he articulated. And one of the things that he says he wants to do in black communities is to repair the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
to demolish abandoned buildings, and to bring in more law enforcement. You know, so how do you feel about those three?
If I were advising President Trump,
You're not yet? You're not?
Yeah, but if you know, if he might be watching Black America. You never know, right? So,
He
anywho,
might be. Yeah.
the infrastructure piece is really important to me because
Right.
you could actually, if you were smart and deliberate about it, create the kind of job creation program to deal with that. You can not just on the infrastructure, you know, side, the roads and that kind of stuff, but also green infrastructure,
Right.
which would, you know, when you're greening up an area, you are actually helping make it more resilient to the climate issues that we're going to be dealing with. Even if you don't believe in climate change, people know that we're getting more 100-year storms and damages from flooding.
Sure.
So those kind of things, you know, building more, whether it's green roofs, planted medians, and all those kind of things.
And hire locally.
And hire, where else are you going to, I mean, you can't
Right.
offshore those jobs, right? So that would be all local hires.
Right.
So that's what I would advise them to do.
Destroying the buildings? Just is
I mean,
that-
some of them, in many cases,
Yeah.
depending on where you are in the
Yeah.
country, many of them are hazards that need to come down. But again, if you're creating like a much more deliberate plan for how do you deal with those communities, I would not recommend, you know, the sort of typical public housing kind of, you know, Courvoisier, you know, project towers. But
Yes.
really think about economic diversity within them and building deliberate, sustainable communities that actually have mixes of income so that you're not just doing the same thing of concentrating poverty, because we know that ultimately does create the kind of impacts where there's a tension between law enforcement and community as well.
Right.
Because there's no there's no love on either side, you know, when it gets right down to it. And I think the more stable a community is, and we know economically diverse communities are more stable
Right.
than simply poor communities.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier, you say in so many of the communities that you're working in, people want more law enforcement because there is a crime issue.
Yeah.
So we have to,
And it's more, I mean,
complicated.
it's complicated,
Yeah.
but it's also, I think, kind of simple. You know, I mean, we have many folks in law enforcement, you know, young, not a whole lot of veterans
Right.
when it gets right down to it. And you know, what I think we need is more interaction between
Mm-hmm.
folks. Almost like thinking of, you know, that the police, like, that we are their customers,
Right.
versus just, you know, like these like, as opposed to the enemy.
Sure.
And the more opportunities we have for people to actually connect with each other, like, it's really interesting. So we opened up this coffee shop, and you know, in Hunts Point in the Bronx, and one of the nicest comments we got was actually from a longtime, you know, veteran police officer who was just like, and at one point, who was just like, you know, we barbecue on the street in front of it, and we actually thought, oh God, we're going to get a ticket. He was just like, no, why would I do that? This is great. You're inviting people in. This is making your business an extension of the street. This is what actually makes communities
Right.
better.
That's a great,
and I
a
was
great
like,
story.
oh, thank you. Okay. Like,
we,
don't
we,
give me a
always,
ticket.
we always finish, and I'm shocked to learn that we're coming to the close. You'll have to come back. But the question of finishing the statement, the strength and power of Black America lies in. What is that? What's that to you?
Oh boy. The strength and power of
Black America.
Yeah, the strength and power of Black America lies in our ability to look back at the future and understand that we can create a future that is worthy of us all.
And you are certainly participating in that, Majora Carter. I thank you so much for your continued, an old-timer now almost, a 20-year career
I know.
of working to change the South Bronx and much of this country by sharing your ideas. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
today.
Oh.
And thanks to you all out there, too, for joining us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. We'll see you the next time.
Awesome. Thank you.